Hi everyone, my name is Joseph and welcome to Chapter 2A of Digimon Seekers, Hacker Leon, www Airlines Airlines Flight 626. Before I actually start with the first quote, excuse my fan, you might hear it in the background. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit warm, so I have that on. If it's too loud, please do let me know and I'll adjust it in the next video. But hopefully we're good to go. Alright, cool, so let's begin with the first quote. Hackers and code crackers were a distinction without much of a difference when you got down to it. Code crackers are just hackers with fewer ethical hangups around breaking the law. Evil hackers, if you like. It's been like that since the earliest days of the network, well before the discovery of the digital world. Those who work to stop code crackers from committing crimes are colloquially known as ethical hackers. So I'm not gonna lie, the only reason why I do like this quote is just because it's a quick world building comment, I would say. Not comment, but a quick world building reminder. Kind of like, not as prevalent, but in the same way that Digimon Seekers kept saying that Digimon are alive. Digimon are alive, they kept repeating that idea in the first chapter. And I think it made sense. I already explained that they wanted to hammer in that not only are they sentient, but also sapient. There's a difference between the two. In this instance, I kind of feel like the story has repeated multiple times that hackers are similar to code crackers, two sides of the same coin. And I do like how they actually do keep repeating this because I think it's enough to merit that sometimes it is a really fine, thin line, kind of like a reference to Destiny as well when the Exo Stranger says that to the main character to choose a side. The line between light and darkness, it's very, very thin. In this instance, it's kind of like with that same train of thought. We have, as this explains, code crackers who are just more willing to go beyond legal activities, and hackers who, yeah, they're also willing to do illegal activities, but with a different perspective, a different mindset. I just really liked how it starts with this because it's just a quick, it's what AG and Leon is, right? AG is the code cracker, while it's, excuse me, I hit my cat by accident, but I think she's okay. While it's Leon is the hacker. So I like how this kind of sets up the, not a showdown of sorts, it's just that, again, that two different perspectives that's being demonstrated between these two characters. Moving forward, EG sighed despondently. Why were they even engaging this kind of talk? Digimon didn't have biological sexes or genders for the most part. What's got you down, EG? Logamon asked. He probably just realized how popular code crackers are, Postmon chimed in. There's no need to be so blunt about it, Postmon, Leon chided. It was too late, however. EG's heart had already been torn to shreds. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about this quote, it's really minor as well, more lighter, superficial. I'm really enjoying Postmon's character. I did enjoy him from the first part, chapter 1, excuse me. E.g. Wolf of the 9 Avenues. I can't recall the chapter name completely. But Postmon, the more we learn more about him, he just really reminds me of Terriermon, and I'm from Digimon Tamers, and I mean that as a compliment. I loved how Terriermon was very much a rascal. He knew he shouldn't say some comments, but he would still say them, and he knew sometimes when he said them that he was in the wrong, so that's why he used his little ears to look really cute and so forth, right? Postmon just kind of reminds me about that, and yeah, I just really like that. As a quick context, the reason why why were they even engaging this kind of talk is referring to Logomon and Postmon, who were talking about who were their favorites, who would they rather work with, Hatsune or her colleague, her friend. That's from the previous part that came to talk with Leon and EG. And in fact, it gets revealed that the only reason why they came forward is because Hatsune's friend was actually attracted physically to Leon and she wanted to speak with him. But yeah, I just found this comment to be fun. Or passage, excuse me. Deep down, EG knew that code cracking wasn't a glamorous job, that people had an overwhelmingly negative view of it. Leon looked at Logomon and Postmon and let out a slight chuckle. We shouldn't be calling Digimon AI programs, he began. What are you talking about? EG said lazily. We should be calling them AI life forms. Just look at how our partner Digimon have formed a mutual trust with one another. That means Digimon can probably befriend one another. Leon replied, looking lovingly at the two Digimon before him. Befriend one another, huh? Do you think they can, EG? EG studied Leon's face. It wasn't the look of someone being wistful or that of a college student discussing crushes or what have you. Was this the face of his alter ego Judgment? EG opted to answer from a code cracker's perspective. This is probably the first deep passage that we're going to look at. I really love this passage, as almost always, for two particular reasons. The first part is because the what are you talking about? EG said lazily. It really just demonstrates how how EG was in his own mind. He was self-reflecting, really thinking about the whole comments that was made about code crackers versus hackers. I didn't read this passage, but the whole Hatsune's colleague talked about how there was clubs in high school and university, and usually those who liked the code cracking clubs were scrupulous individuals, unsavory individuals who were either very depressed or had other issues going on. And so that's why EG is just self-reflecting and thinking about. Excuse me, everyone. Again, my cat's fur is kind of flying around, so my nose is itching a little bit. Excuse me about that. But yeah, so that's why I like that. It really just shows that EG is self-reflecting. He's lost in his own mind. But this goes back to Digimon Are Alive. I love how the story seems to be looking at it from a new perspective. Yes, Digimon are not just sentient, but sapient. We should also, because of that fact, use different terms, use different labels. Digimon, since they are sapient, they are alive. They're not. What did he say? They're not AI programs, but rather AI life forms. And I just like how the detail states that Leon looks lovingly at Logomon and Postmon. One can really tell. Well, no wonder Professor Ruzenji works well with Leon and vice versa. They both seem to have a really soft, caring spot for Digimon. And I would argue that EG has that as well. And this is kind of discussed, and we'll look at this shortly. But again, with the first chapter, I just love that transition, how EG was viewing his Tyrannomon more as tools. And by the end of chapter 1, he was viewing them more as a community, more as a team. Really cool. I really appreciate that. Only because I'm playing Fallout New Vegas, it reminded me of the Courier with maybe Boone and EDE. I just mentioned those characters because those are usually the first teammates that one comes across in New Vegas. But again, I love that perspective, that change. And I love how he asks EG, do you think it's possible for Digimon to be more than just what they are, essentially? And I love how EG, again, despite being lost in his own self-reflection, he's able to quickly remove himself and insert himself back into the conversation and view the contextual details before him and realize we're no longer just having a small conversation, a light conversation about lunch or the past, but we're not having a serious conversation about mindsets and ideologies. And thus, EG opted to answer from a code cracker's perspective. And the fact that EG is able to notice that Leon, his own perspective changed, his demeanor changed from just laid back to judgment, again, says a lot about EG's character. Really shows that he's astute, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that about EG. So this is a bit of a longer quote. Until recently, I've always thought of them as tools, them being Digimon, ever since I became a code cracker. Naturally, that'd be your only interaction with the digital world, I imagine. Yeah, I can't deny that. But getting the Digimon linker and meeting Logomon have changed my perspective. And since you met Professor Ruzenji, yeah, that's only changed it further. Mind linking with Logomon and being able to talk with one another and being able to talk to one another, Logomon's got an entire history. All these Digimon have lives, you know, as does Postmon, just like you and me or anyone else. If Logomon could build a relationship with others and not just EG, well, that was all the more proof that they were life forms, not programs, each with their own personalities and quirks. So, what is Logomon to you now? My partner, my pal, for life. EG said without hesitation. Good, Leon said, relaxing his jaw. You haven't completely lost your soul to the code crackers then. What do you mean by that? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You need to quit this code cracking nonsense. I want you to wash your hands of those Digimon abusing criminals, EG. So, this quote is what really cemented for me. I think this is probably my favorite part so far from chapter 2. This already reaffirms what I was talking about with the previous quote, that changed perspective that EG had. And I love how we're getting it straight from the horse's mouth, the horse being EG, how he explains directly to the viewer and to Leon that yes, he did have a change of heart. He did have a certain perspective and mindset at the beginning, but all of that has changed. Not just because he's working with tools, but also because he's having conversations about the implications from working with these tools, the linker straps, and the story working with, allowing one to work with Digimon. Excuse me, everyone, my cat turned on the computer, so that might turn on. Excuse me about that. Forgot to switch off the tower from the back. Hopefully it won't be too distracting though. Anyways, as I was saying, that change of heart, EG has grown, and he recognizes that Digimon, as the story has been saying, are alive. And he's able to acknowledge that. And not only acknowledge it, but connect those details. He could just be unempathetic, just factual details, but instead he emotionally connects with it, and he explains that now he views Digimon in a new light. And when he looks at Logomon, without hesitation, he states that Logomon is his partner, his pal for life. And I do think that's very awesome. I think it's adorable. If one has ever had a pet of any kind, I think they could probably relate with that feeling. One gets a cat or a dog. I'm just using those as examples because they're the most popular form of pets. But when one gets a dog or a cat, a kitten or a puppy, it's quite shocking how one develops a relationship with them really quickly. I'm sure that's also true with children, but I'm not a parent yet, so I don't think we should be comparing Digimon to kids anyways. Or maybe that's a separate conversation. Anyways, but hopefully that made sense with that statement that I just said. So I just found it really adorable, that statement. And then with that being said, I just really appreciate how Leon, he cares about Digimon enough that he's willing to interrogate essentially EG, make sure that EG has not, well, essentially kind of going back to what I said before, that line between light and dark, or the line between illegal activity and too much illegal activity, and how that affects the individual. I love how Leon's making sure that EG hasn't changed too much by working as a code cracker. And we'll come back to this as a later point, because I love how EG points out that just because he's a code cracker doesn't necessarily mean that he's operating as a certain kind of code cracker. But this, to me, even though Leon does seem to be very blunt, and he seems to be very assertive, and quite say, some might maybe even argue arrogant with him demanding that EG stop, I do believe that this is coming, that statement, that command is coming from a place of care and concern for EG's well-being. Leon's not just saying that because he wants to have all the glory as in working with the professor and exploring the digital world as a pioneer. He is caring and taking EG into consideration. Continuing for us, making sure that was everything I wanted to discuss. This is also going to be, oh no, excuse me, this is a regular length quote. Quit code cracking, that's not going to happen, EG said flatly, eliciting an annoyed grunt and obvious displeasure from Leon. I won't sugarcoat it for you either. I envy you. Not only are you studying abroad, you're doing it at a prestigious university like Tokyo Electrical, and your part-time job is at DDL. Your part-time job is at DDL, for crying out loud. So forgive me if I'm a little salty hearing that from you. EG never was good at equivocating either. Not if Leon was going to be so brutal. Not if Leon was going to be so brutally honest in trying to get EG to quit by pushing his perverse vision of justice onto another human being. What do you mean by that? Leon sensed there was something more beyond this. Excuse me, everyone. Thank you for your patience. What do you mean by that? Leon sensed there was something more behind this outburst. Listen, man. I started code cracking just to survive. If I quit, I'm going to be working some crappy part-time job for crappy pay. I'm 19. I'm in the real world with real responsibilities, and that kind of job just isn't going to cut it for me. You didn't go to college? The EG I remember always had test scores at least as good as mine. Where? Tokyo Electrical? Hell, I got a B on one of the mock exams. I thought I was going to make it, EG said with a sigh. Did something happen? A bit of worry crept into Leon's face as he asked the question. EG finally had the chance to take control of the conversation, and he wasn't about to pass it up. He just wished it was about anything but this. WWW Flight 626. So this was, I think, I would argue, the beginning of, so far, the most emotional aspect of Digimon Seekers. Right off the bat, the beginning of this quote, I just love EG's honesty. He's also being blunt. I try my best not to talk about other properties, but I think that's the best way to refine analogies, especially one that's come across that show before. But this scene really kind of reminds me like a light version of the ending of, spoilers, everyone hasn't finished the Bear Season 2, but I'll be very minor. But at the end of that show, at the end of the season, there's two characters who, they're having an argument, and at the end, one starts saying really hurtful things, and the other one states, I love you, I love you, I love you, and it's just this huge argument. This has the opportunity to turn into a big argument between EG and Leon, but it doesn't go to that level. But despite that, it's still a heavy conversation that they're having. This is EG saying, Leon, I am jealous of you. You have a awesome job. You're living an awesome life internationally. Whilst I'm 19, I don't even have a degree. I'm not even in college, right? That's a lot to say. That's a lot to admit. And I believe the only reason why EG is able to do this is because as the story keeps hammering in, despite not being with one another, not despite not being friends with one another for quite a while, because they drifted apart, they still have a lot of goodwill within their relationship, and it's because of that goodwill that AJ is able to open up a little bit. And again, I think this really shows how strong EG is emotionally, his emotional intelligence, that he is able to say this directly to Leon. And as a reader, I just really appreciate it. I also like how it states EG was never good at equivocating either. Now Leon was going to be so brutally honest and trying to get EG to quit by pushing his perverse version of justice onto another human being. Again, despite him being emotional, getting worked up, I should argue that's evidence that he's in control of his feelings still. He's in control, or rather still trying to remain and participate in this conversation. Also, what I further like about this, because it says a lot about Leon's demeanor as well. A bit of worry crept into Leon's face as he asked the question, did something happen? Even though Leon, again, is being very demanding, I think that's more textual evidence to suggest that Leon is coming from a place of caring, from a place of keeping EG's goodwill in mind. He's not trying to be a jerk on purpose. And then the last thing that I want to look at is, excuse me everyone, I have my other cat's at the, he's in here as well, and he's biting my legs, so, oh, sorry, because my cat distracted me. We learned, it's a small comment, but this really shows a lot about EG's characterization. When he states, I got a B on one of the mock exams, I thought I was going to make it. That's a really big revelation, I would argue, because since the beginning of the story, and not just, even before the story started itself, Bandai Namco kept stating that EG's a naive, dumb bunny, essentially. In fact, I haven't looked at the descriptions of the characters since the Seekers first started. But if it hasn't changed, it also describes him as being a dumb bunny of sorts. And I've been saying since the beginning, I'm sure it's not just myself as well, other individuals who have been reading the story as well. I'm sure we have noticed that EG, he's astute. He has a lot of great observational skills. He's able to make great conclusions, and he's able to work great with the community as well. He's able to adapt. These are all traits and characteristics of someone who is not a dumb bunny. I'm trying to be polite. I don't want to say stupid, right? But that's basically what Namco implies that EG is. And some other characters in the story as well. But it turns out he's not. He's actually, he used to be, with formal education, he was doing really well for himself. So what happened, what occurred? Well, Flight 626. Now, before we continue, before starting this chapter, and the fact that it was called Flight 626, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of getting bored of the, going back to that incident. I thought it was just going to be a minor incident that just describes what's going on with Digimon. I did not realize that was going to take the forefront of the story. At the way that it's taking right now, everyone is keeping up and they're aware that I'm referring to the fact that EG's parents died on that flight. I really love this personal connection. All of a sudden, my less neutral, more towards disdain opinion about Flight 626, now I'm really looking forward to discovering more about it because it has a personal connection to the protagonist now, a personal connection to a major element of the story. Essentially, I'm going to reiterate, I thought it was just a minor element, just a detail to help with the world building, but it turns out there's a personal connection. And I can see why this chapter is called WW Flight 626, because obviously it has professional connections for Leon, because he's thinking about this flight with at the beginning of the part of chapter 2, but now we're discovering that while Leon has that professional connection, EG has that personal connection. And I can see why the narration keeps coming back to this flight. And for me as the reader, it just really helped me to realize, wow, Digimon Seekers is really doing something with this story so far, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, let's continue forward. So this one is a little bit of a longer quote, so bear with me, please. Leon looked a bit shaken now. Ever since the mention of Flight 626, he met Ichi's parents several times when they were playing in the river together. They weren't faceless passengers on that flight any longer. Your parents were on that flight? But why? It was a trip for the silver wedding anniversary. They left me at home and were all set up to go to America. Ichi said wearily. He noticed something odd. Leon seemed to let out some sort of noise, but stifled it at the last moment. Had his parents' death really shocked him to the same degree when it happened? Excuse me, everyone. Sorry, let me drink some water. I noticed that I was thirsty before I started reading, but I thought I could ignore that. Thank you for your patience. Um, EG noticed something odd. Leon seemed about to let out some sort of noise, but stiffened it at the last moment. Had his parents' death really shocked him to the same degree when it happened? He didn't really remember having time for things like shock, among everything else. In fact, this was the first time he dug out it out. This is the first time he dug it out of the recesses of his memory, let alone spoken to anyone about it. I had no idea what was happening, E.G. rasped, his voice trembling as he fought back tears. The house was all tied up in the mortgage with the guarantor attached. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, excuse me. My parents' life insurance policies, I sold the house, and that was when it hit me that everything was gone. College, that wasn't an option anymore. E.G. lived in a different world. And now he drawn a clear line between himself and Leon. Weren't there any scholarships? Even if there were, I was too devastated. I couldn't function, let alone study. If Leon thought that was a sign of weakness, E.G. would dare him to say it. But if you lost your parents to an act of Digimon crime, allegedly, how could you possibly continue code cracking? Leon was visibly shaking now, but his mind was still following a hacker's line of reasoning. What a ridiculous question. The Digimon aren't the criminals. The people that forced them to commit the crime are. Digimon are just tools to code crackers, and I don't use them to take human lives, E.G. said calmly. Leon sat in silence. I'm doing it to eke out a living. I'm not proud of it. I had no other choice. But Professor Ridgenji taking notice of my work has made me proud of it for the first time in ages. You have admired him and worked with him even longer than I have. You, of all people, should understand how incredible that feels. Professor Ridgenji expected great things of E.G., which proved to him that this was the right and perhaps only path for him. So this quote is very strong, dripping with emotional aspects, I would argue, and I mean that in a positive way. I love how it gets revealed. So let me get my line of thought. So, as an individual, when it got revealed in Chapter 1 that E.G. went back to his apartment, and he did mention that he had a memorial for his family, I did assume that maybe his parents had passed away or something that occurred, but I never really made that connection that possibly was connected to Flight 626. And now it kind of seems obvious, but when I first read this, I was blown away a little bit. And now for me, what I really like about this passage is that I would argue that this could be textual evidence that E.G. suffered through some bout of depression, if not depression, this is through some bout of mental health issues. And Digimon has always been really great, despite being a kid's property, having elements of maturity, having elements where one is able to dig deeper with. The classic example, of course, being Yamato/Matt with TK/ Takeru and their family situation. Kasuru or Easy with his whole adoption situation. And then, of course, Taichi/Tai with Akari/Kari and having to manage her health when she was ill and everything like that. Just the fact that E.G. is now bluntly saying that his parents had passed away in a tragedy, that due to that tragedy, his life was irrevocably changed, that was changed drastically, and to the point where it looked like he'll be able to live a traditional life, attend university, and do what everyone else is doing around his social circle. All of that changes. And I think that's really awesome. I think E.G. might be a character, a protagonist that a lot of individuals today will be able to relate with, especially those who are college students. And this is actually why I'm a big fan of the fact that Seekers has an older cast, because of the fact that they being the writers, could do heavier elements such as this. And I hope they continue. I hope that they being the writers continue with this aspect that possibly E.G. had suffered through some mental health issues. And they talk about some of the coping mechanisms or skills that he utilized to help get over the fact or his parents' death and the changing of his life. That would be a really dramatic experience. In fact, referring back to the bear, in Season 1, one of the characters, Richie, so much change is occurring in his life that it starts affecting him in the way that he interacts not just with himself, but with other individuals too. But for that character, Richie, he does so in a negative way at first. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but it really reminds me of the Bear Season 1, but we're seeing again more textual evidence that E.G. easily could have just fallen off or stumbled and continued stumbling. Oh, what was to him? His parents are gone. But obviously he took his code cracking skills and he honed it and focused everything that he had into that, and it paid off. I'm hoping that we get more history about Eiji and what he did before he met the professor. But so far, I just really appreciate this passage because of the mental health connections that one can create, and just further textual evidence for how strong of a character Eiji is. I am really loving Eiji, and I'm not gonna lie, Leon's character a lot so far. Eiji, Leon, Postmon, and Logomon are quickly becoming some of my favorite dual protagonists from Digimon. They're up there with Yamato and Taichi for me, and Henry, Takuro, and Rika. I would consider them to be more a group of three than just Henry and Takuro. But anyways, continuing forward, yeah, I just really enjoy and appreciate this passage. What I also like about it, let me quickly find it, is Leon's reaction as well. If Leon thought that was a sign of weakness, Eiji would dare him to say it. I think Leon's the type of individual who would not call what Eiji just stated when he said, "I was too devastated, I couldn't function, let alone study." I think Leon would empathetically understand and see Ichi's point of view. So I don't think he would say that that was a sign of weakness. In the same way that Eiji didn't think it was a sign of weakness that Leon was to himself and was a little bit introverted. That was discussed in the last chapter. And I love Ichi's response. The Digimon aren't the criminals. The people that force them to commit the crimes are. Digimon are just tools to code crackers, and I don't use them to take human lives. I'm doing it to eke out a living. I'm not proud of it. I had no other choice. But Professor Rijinji taking notice of my work has made me proud of it for the first time in ages. Again, just really Eiji being forefront and honest with Leon. And because of this, as the reader, really helps us to will further become attached to him as a protagonist. And yeah. Give me a quick second. And then also like this part, his parents' death really shocked Leon to the same degree when it happened. Eiji didn't really remember having time for things like shock among everything else. So again, the fact that even though Leon and Eiji have been not close for a long time, this news, it's emotionally impacting Leon. And that's awesome. It really shows how close they used to be and the possibility for them to become friends, good friends again. And I'm thinking that's more than likely that's going to happen. I can't wait for that Yamato Taichi partnership. Sorry. Obviously, again, I think it's clear. I am a Gabumon fan, so that's why I mention Yamato quite often. So hopefully I'm not being too biased. But yeah, continuing forward. What does the professor have you doing, Eiji? It's more than just raising Logomon, isn't it? Eiji asked quietly. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. That's obviously a typo. What does the professor have you doing, Eiji? It's more than just raising Logomon, isn't it? Leon asked quietly. I'm not at liberty to say, Eiji replied. He had to keep it confidential. You're in the SOC, though, so I have my guesses. Look, Eiji, stop right there, Eiji said, lifting the palm of his hand into the air in front of Leon's face. If we keep talking, I absolutely will tell you everything. Leon was still a dear friend to Eiji, for whom it felt like no time had passed since they were still in school together. But no one can live in the past forever. Again, the bluntness and forthcoming nature of Eiji, I really appreciate. This is him saying we need to end this conversation right now. Actually, we need to end this conversation right now because I'm going to fail my mission that I'm doing with the professor. I'm going to review what I'm doing with the SOC, with the Sons of Chaos. And I like that a lot. He's aware of himself. So again, in order to self-reflect, dumb bunnies can't really do that. To self-reflect requires critical thinking skills. Again, further reinforcement that Eiji, he understands and knows himself. I really appreciate that. And then, in addition to that, as the reader, I was kind of worried and concerned that Eiji was going to reveal his secret plan with the professor, which I don't think he should do right now. Even though I'm happy that Eiji has a friend, I don't think he should reveal these details because he still has a professional partnership with the professor. I don't think the professor would appreciate that as well. But I think eventually Eiji will review what he's doing, and they'll be working with Leon. But I want that to occur organically and naturally, not because Eiji is quote unquote cheating, revealing information he shouldn't be. I loved how he kept in mind, I'm not at liberty to say. As a reader, I really did appreciate that. But yeah, really short quote, but I think this is a strong quote as well, just because reveals Eiji's self-reflection, how much he still cares about Leon, and how much he's still able to keep track with his professional obligations. And then for the last quote, yep, code cracker stuff. Good luck with that. Actually, let me start over a little bit at the beginning. Oh yeah, I have to go. It's time for my appointment with. Actually, let me start with Logomon, just because I like Logomon. It's time, EG. Logomon said, his ears perking up. Oh yeah, I had to go. It's time for my appointment with Professor Ruzenji. EG said, standing up from the table. Professor Ruzenji. Yep, code cracker stuff. Good luck with all the studying and whatever. I'll see you around, and hopefully we can skip the heavy, complicated stuff next time. Maybe over drinks once our birthdays roll around. Postman made a see you later gesture at Logomon and EG as they got up from their seats. Here, this is for you, Postman said, and handing something to Logomon. What is it? Excuse me, and handed something to Logomon. What is it? Logomon asked, taking it away. It looked like a bundle of compressed files. It's a present. Catch you later. I want a personal tour of the Castle of Nine Wolves someday. I want to go deep into the Wasp Slum, Postman chirped as EG and Logomon walked away. So that last portion, I'm not gonna lie, I only wanted to read it because again, it just Postman's demeanor just really reminds me, and his behavior just really reminds me of Terriermon. Just that little rascal energy. I really love it. I'm looking forward to more interactions between Postman and anyone else, to be frank, with Leon, the Professor, EG, Logomon, the Digi Police, the Sons of Chaos, and so forth. His little statements have been fun. And I just wanted, yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I just read this last quote just because it was more superficial, because in the same way that we started with light-hearted, superficial quotes that reinforce world building, I think this last quote does the same thing, and that's why I just wanted to read it. Yeah, I'm really happy with this part. I'm not gonna lie, the previous part, while I did enjoy it, I was expecting a little bit more in terms of the conversation between Leon and EG, and this was exactly the kind of conversational material that I was anticipating. I really loved it. I read it last night just to see what quotes I wanted to look at, and as soon as I read it the first time, I just I'm not gonna lie. Before reading it, I kind of felt like a bit of a drag. It's like, oh, new chapter. Let me go. A new part. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and check it out. I haven't enjoyed the story, but I kind of feel like the story's been coasting for right now. But as soon as I finished it, as I said, I just loved the interaction and the relationship building between AG and Leon, and just discovering more about their history, and especially this personal connection with Flight 626. So yeah, so thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. What are your opinions about the story so far? Were you like me, getting a little bit tired of Flight 626, but now it makes sense why it's being included? How do you feel about the relationship, the friendship between I was gonna say Yamato and Taichi, Logomon, EG and Leon? And lastly, my question for this video is, who's your favorite human partners / chosen children from the series as a whole? Not just chosen children, I suppose, because in Digimon Savers they weren't chosen children. Obviously, I would say that mine is Taichi and Yamato, but also a close second, and this is cheating a little bit, but the trio, Takuro, Henry, and Rika. I really appreciate those two sets of characters. Again, thank you for watching. Have a prodigious day, and take care. Thank you so much.